Rhonda's right. Yes. Black pride doesn't mean anti-white. Same thing with Beyonce. Because she gave some props and recognition to the Black Panthers, in no way whatsoever means that she's anti-white at all. I would say that more than half of the people that support her in terms of her commercial products are probably white. And she knows that. And I don't know if this is like some paranoid knee-jerk reaction from the status quo, or if white people, not just white people on television, because I think that's different. Maybe white people are being misrepresented on television. Think about that. You know, are everyday mainstream European Americans, is that how they look at Beyonce? Like, uh-oh, she's anti-white. I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. Also, and I'll flip it for you. Let me be real with you. I have seen like interviews over the years of white individuals who are part of white pride movements. I don't have a problem with the white pride movement. There's nothing wrong with white pride, as long as white pride doesn't lead to black bodies swinging in trees. Other than that, we all good. I have no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with having pride in who you are and where you came from, no matter where you are, no matter who you are. And because you do, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that you're anti anybody else. But what's your take on it, fam? Letty writes, I would rather listen to Minister Farrakhan. The media has long painted a picture of Farrakhan promoting hate. Yet, we have states across the globe of KKK in police uniforms killing our black men and women. The Sheriff Clark is a pathetic racist. Sheriff Clark got problems. Did you hear what he said? This is something that people might have glossed over. He said that when Farrakhan came to Milwaukee, they contacted the police to ask for protection. And he turned them down. He said he wouldn't even do it for money. What kind of law enforcement official is that, where you're not going to do your job because of your personal feelings? And if Farrakhan had a problem with police, then why would he contact the police when he comes in town for protection or try to work with them? I mean, you just got to think about it for a second. That makes no sense whatsoever. This man is saying that I'm a law enforcement official. We got to stick up for law enforcement. Law enforcement never does anything wrong. But if somebody calls me who I don't like, I'm not going to do my job. What? He doesn't need to have a job. As sheriff, that might have been an elected position. He doesn't need to be reelected, but he's probably doing the same thing with Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and a lot of these cats do, is that they appeal to a tiny base that got them elected, right? So I get what he's doing. Did you peep that? He said that Farrakhan came to Milwaukee and asked for protection, and he was like, why are you asking me? Wait a minute. You're the sheriff. Do your job. See, that's a problem. Law enforcement needs to do their job, even if they don't like it. So what? That's your job. I didn't tell you to become a police officer. I didn't tell you to go through the training. I didn't tell you to put your life on the line and dedicate your life. I support you as long as you're doing the right thing, but do your job. I don't care how you care about black citizens. I don't care how you feel about Beyonce or Farrakhan. Whatever happened to your duty means more than your tiny ego. But, you know, sometimes people tell up on themselves. And to me, homeboy told on himself. He told on himself. If you go to my Facebook page, The Nathan Ivey Show, and also Nathan Ivey on Facebook, there are numerous articles spanning a range of topics. How many people listening right now are listening through an iPhone or an iPad? I recently purchased an iPad because I need to add it to my studio. Never had any kind of Apple product before, and I like it. I like it a lot. When I first purchased it, if you have any kind of Apple product, you got to put in a code initially, and it's like a screensaver. So let's say after 30 seconds, your device will be locked down, and if somebody tries to put in the code and they put in the wrong code, you know what will happen? It'll lock your device down. It'll lock your phone down. It'll lock your iPad down. I'm sure some of you know that. So I had this new iPad less than 24 hours. I forgot the code. I wrote it down, but I must have wrote it down incorrectly, because when I went back in to try to put the code in so I could get access to my device, I couldn't get access to my device. Do you know I had to go through this long, complicated process? I had to go on iTunes. I had to wipe everything clean and then restart again, which it wasn't a problem because literally, I had just had it a few hours before it was locked down. Well, I don't know if you're paying attention to what the government is trying to do now with Apple. It has everything to do, in my opinion, with your civil liberties and your freedoms. And I'll be honest with you, from what I understand about it right here and now, I support Apple. I support Apple over the interests of the government. And here's what's going on. Basically, the government, the Justice Department, wants Apple to help access encrypted information stored on the iPhone owned by some individuals who are being called terrorists. Okay. And essentially the Justice Department wants the good folks over at Apple to write software that will disable its passcode protections to allow an infinite number of guesses without erasing the data on the device. Okay. So Apple put this in place so that if you lose your phone or you lose your device, that someone cannot get access to your pertinent information. So what you could do is you can save all your information on the cloud. And if you lose your phone and somebody gets it and they're trying to break your passcode, it'll erase everything. You can get a new phone and download it and get right back in business. And so that's what the Justice Department is asking. They want the ability to be able to just run their encryption services and just keep trying passwords so they can unlock it and then get information about what they are claiming is potentially the activities of terrorists. Apple is saying that if they do that, it'll open up a back door. It'll be a cancer, right, in terms of modern day software. And I want to get your thoughts about it. What do you think? Whom do you agree with? Whom do you support? Again, I support Apple because just because somebody says that someone's a terrorist, it doesn't mean they are. Number two, this is still the United States. And what I'm afraid of is that the government can run down and say terrorist. And then we just shred the Constitution, shred all civil liberties, and give free access to the government whenever they want it. And I don't think that's the way things should be. But if you haven't been paying attention to it, and again, if you have an Apple phone, any kind of Apple products, you might want to pay attention. Let's check this out.
Thanks for having us in your office. I don't think we've ever done an interview in your office before.
I'm not sure I've ever done an interview in the office.
Well, I know this is an important issue, so we'll dive right in.
Thank you.
As we sit here, you know some of the families of the victims in San Bernardino have now come is refusing to do this. What would you say to those families tonight?
David, they have our deepest sympathy. What they've been through, no one should have to go through. Apple has cooperated with the FBI fully in this case. They came to us and asked us for all the information we had on this phone, and we gave everything that we had. We went further than that and volunteered engineers to help them and gave them numerous suggestions about how they might learn more about this particular case. But this case is not about one phone. This case is about the future. What is at stake here is, can the government compel Apple to write software that we believe would make hundreds of millions of customers vulnerable around the world, including in the U.S., and also trample civil liberties that are at the basic foundation of what this country was made on?
And you'd have to write that system in order to unlock that phone?
Yes. This is we have no more information about this phone. The only way to get information, at least currently the only way we know, would be to write a piece of software that we view as sort of the software equivalent of cancer. We think it's bad news to write. We would never write it. We have never written it. And that is what is at stake here.
You're aware of the polling on this, the Pew poll.
So the polling says that Americans support the government's insistence that Apple write this code so that they can get a back door, basically, and be able to unlock anybody's phone. See, that's the thing. What Apple is saying is that once we put this out there, then it's out there for every device, not just these so-called terrorists in San Bernardino. But what do you think? What do you think? I mean, do we have to give up everything in pursuit of stopping the so-called terrorist? Everything? But let me flip the script on it. Let's say that there's information on the phone that could lead to the prevention of a future terrorist act where Americans could lose their lives. Let me put it that way, hypothetically. If that's the scenario, do you then support the government's insistence that Apple write some new code which will allow them to bypass the Apple encryption code? What do you think? Like I said, I dealt with it, and I forgot the code, and I was locked out. I was so sad. You should have saw my face. I was sad. Brand new iPad. I couldn't even play with it. And I had to get online and go through. I mean, it took me forever. I mean, it's pretty simple now looking back. But, you know, when you're in that moment and you're trying to get access to your device, and I'm very happy I didn't have any information or anything on there because I just opened it out the box. But I know firsthand just how serious those encryption codes are. And if you keep putting the passcode in there, you're going to wipe that baby clean with everything on there. But if you buy that device, think about all the personal information that people put in their devices. You got pictures of yourself. You got pictures of your family. You might have information about bills, social security number, your address. Hey, if you're cheating, sexy photographs between hubby and wifey. I mean, whatever is on there. Okay, that's your business. That's your business, in my opinion. But what do you think? Tracy writes, hashtag Android. Dale writes, I definitely support Apple because I'm an owner of an iPhone. Brent writes, the government wants more control over their slaves. I applaud Apple. Civil liberties are meaningless as it applies to what you think you have in the way of constitutional rights. You're right. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And the CEO of Apple is saying that it should not be left up to the courts. It should be left up to Congress. It should be left up to the politicians. Now, I don't know if I trust them anymore. I might trust the courts better. I don't know. He also said he's going to appeal directly to President Barack Obama so he can weigh in on this as well. That's very, very interesting. Speaking of the president, everyone knows, if you don't know, that recently a member of the Supreme Court died while in office, Mr. Scalia. And I was never a fan of his policies or the way he spoke. And it was reported that he spoke about people of color. And now the Republicans are digging in real deep, fam, because they're saying, we don't care who you nominate. We are going to stall you out because this is the last year of your term. And somehow they think that doesn't matter. It's ridiculous to me. For me, you're the president until your last day. It is what it is. You know, if the Republicans felt that way, they should have put Scalia on life support and kept him alive until after Barack Obama left the White House. But you did not. So it is what it is. This black man, let's say it again, is going to leave a stain in the White House. 2. That's right. Deal with it. But now I'm reading, and I don't know if this is just politics or whatever, but have you heard what name has been released from the White House? His name is Brian Sandoval. He is the current governor of Nevada. He is a Republican. Let that sink in. Why would Obama nominate a Republican? Why would you do that? Especially after these Republicans came for you for the last 7 years. Now you're going to give them somebody on the Supreme Court? So I did my research about Mr. Sandoval, and people are saying that he's a moderate. Now, I don't believe he's a moderate. By today's political parlance, you're a moderate if you're pro-choice. You're a moderate if you're pro-choice, right? That's like the big issue that will determine whether you're a moderate or not. But I did some more research and I found out that 6 months after the tragedy at Sandy Hook, 6 months after to the day of the tragedy in Sandy Hook, where you had a lone gunman, he went into the school, he killed all these children, many of them were European American. Nothing happened whatsoever, which was an example of just how powerful the gun lobby is. See, it's one thing, and again, I'm going to be real with you, you may not like it. It's one thing when young black kids are killing each other in the inner city. That's one thing. America really don't care about that. Let's be honest. It's fodder for television news. It might be You know, it might perpetuate budgets for law enforcement around the country, but that's about it. Let's be real. But when little white kids are being mowed down and nothing happened, that told me right there